Welcome to the Orana podcast, a show about what you will find, what you will not find in the Cook Islands. And now here's your host, Chantal Napa.
Kia orana, kia koto katoto, nokoni ia mato I tumu te warawaro ko Chantal Napa te ia. Welcome back everybody to Kia Orana podcast. It's been amazing. So the last 3 weeks I haven't been recording because I was really busy. I had Hayden here, everybody. So Hayden was here from America and we got a lot of work done. And then today I'm so excited to be back in my podcasting seat again. And I have a very special guest for you. We have Kevin Ero with us today, and Kevin is the Marae Moana Ambassador. Marae Moana Ambassador. So Kevin, let's just break down, please, Marae and then Moana, and then that'll help everybody know what we're talking about.
Yeah, no problem. Kia orana, Chantal. So the actual name was won in a competition. So way back in 2009 or 10, when we first created this concept, and then when government through Henry Puna chose to push this right through and say, hey, we want to actually get Marae Moana up and legislate it. I think around about maybe 2014, they put out this competition within the schools who can come up with a name for, at the time it was just called Cook Islands Marine Park. And a young man, I believe, from up in Te Reora College who won the prize and obviously won the naming competition. And I think it stuck because Marae obviously meaning, it's a sacred place, and obviously Moana, the ocean, and that, I think it was Cabinet that actually voted and picked the name Marae Moana, but yeah, it essentially means sacred ocean. So it was a good name, everyone liked it, and then I think they rolled out a logo, also a logo competition that was won by June Hosking. And that was an awesome logo as well. So yeah, we got an awesome name, we got an awesome logo with it.
And what's your logo? I've got it here. I've got it here on the screen. It's the green, blue, Marae Moana. Is that a wave? Very nice.
Yeah, it depicts, obviously you've got the fish there. To me, it looks like a tuna. And so, it depicts life in the ocean.
Yes.
And then you've got this other, it looks like a coral, but it's got a plant growing out of it. I think that's more to depict the land, our islands and all that sort of thing. And then you'll notice around the edge, it's got all
the motifs.
The motifs.
Yeah, motifs around the edge.
Yeah, it's the unity motif, but it's sort of been modernized to represent as much as possible all the islands. You'll notice there's one there with a hat on. And I think that depicts the Palmerston.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Family. And so, yeah, that was picked. And again, brilliant logo. And
And tell me, Kevin, I was doing some research. In 2017, the actual government created
an act.
Yes.
Yeah, legislated Marae Moana. And so you gave it some legal teeth. It wasn't just what some people call a paper park. It was actually had teeth and an act around it, and yeah, it's going. We're going on now 4, 5, 6 years, and just continually still promoting Marae Moana and the principles around Marae Moana, our ocean, and how important it is to us as Cook Islanders.
And in that act, is it all about having an act is it's huge, right? Like you said, giving something teeth, and then so the act is really to support the conservation and to support the protection.
Yeah, and also obviously having all government agencies tie in to their responsibility as government agencies into Marae Moana. So you have some key agencies that people don't even associate with the ocean, but Ministry of Transport, with shipping and all that sort of thing. Obviously, tourism is a big one. You've got the agencies that you associate with the oceans, NES, National Environment Service, Marine Resources, but there's a whole host of other agencies that tie in.
Mhm.
Marae Moana, we're 99.9% ocean, so it makes sense that it's a whole government approach into how we manage it.
And can we remind everyone, please, given that we have 1.9?
Well, we always say, because it's closer to 2 million square kilometers of ocean, it's 1.9860 or something, but we always just say, hey, it's 2 million square kilometers of ocean, which is huge. When you tell
And
the
that's
kids at
our
school,
EEZ
that's
zone,
our
eh?
EEZ.
Yeah, that's our economic, what's the EEZ?
Exclusive economic zone.
Exclusive economic zone of the Cook Islands.
And so when I explain it to school students, because most of our kids aren't really sure how big, we always consider ourselves these small island nations, when in fact we're actually large ocean states. And that's how most of the Pacific are promoting ourselves now, because it's relevant in this day and age.
Because the kids don't think. So
Yeah,
you just, they sort of just think of the island.
Yeah.
And then when you explain that to them, they're like, wow.
Or when you tell them, I can draw a map, go to any school at that moment, and I can draw, on the whiteboard or on the blackboard, the shape of New Zealand, and say, where's this country? Everyone puts a hand up. It's New Zealand. I can draw a shape of Australia. They all know it. I'll draw the shape of our EEZ, our Marae Moana, and you get all sorts. Africa, France. They don't know.
Wow.
And then I explained to them, no, that's us. That's us. They know. If I was to draw, I was just in Aitaki recently. I drew a shape of Aitaki. They knew straight away. And I said, you guys have to understand that we have this massive country. I said that New Zealand that I just drew, you can fit that into our country 7 times. And then they're all blown away. Wow.
I'm blown away.
Yeah. Wow. We are massive,
I'm blown away.
We're not quite the size of New South Wales, Queensland combined, but we're pretty close. So that's how big. It's not till you really travel up to the north and you're on a 4-hour flight that you actually understand and realize how big.
And you're just flying over water.
You're just flying over water,
to get to the northern Manihiki, in the north. You're just flying over water.
That's right. Yeah.
Man, very cool. Very cool. So, safeguarding the ocean, conservation, protection, environment. Why is it necessary, do you think, Kevin?
Well, again, in this modern day and age, we have a whole lot of industries that have already been created. The tuna fishery is massive. There's mining possibilities they're exploring at the moment. And so
seabed mining.
So there needs to be a full-on coordinated approach, which government is doing. But at the same time, I believe the general public need to know about it. They need to know the scope of, possible impacts and what's happening already at the moment. And if we're not educated in that, we don't have any cause then to, if something goes amiss or we're not, getting the returns that the country should be getting, then no one knows. If it's only government knows, that's where you run into problems. The voting public, the kids coming through who are going to be the next generation of leaders need to know, about this huge resource that we have. And I believe it's our greatest resource, the 2 million square kilometers of ocean. Just as we advance forward in new technologies and all that sort of thing, how do we properly manage our fishery? How do we properly manage, our waters? How do we properly understand, how are we going to manage it and how are we going to protect it into the future? We don't know what lies ahead. There's, a lot of climate change effects that we're seeing now. How can we curb that? How can we mitigate? How can we adapt? There's obviously government departments working on these sorts of things, but we're not always aware of that. I think Marae Moana is a vehicle to allow the general public to get a hold of these types of information.
I was on the maraemoana.gov.ck website, which is the website for Marae Moana. And then I was looking at a little bit of the seabed sort of mining information on there. And then I was like blown away with those nodules, because there's a lot of information on the website there, on your website, and it's like 1 millimeter per million years grows in that nodule. 1 millimeter per million years. And then it was saying that they use those a lot with the digital age, you know, and then it was talking a little bit about we're investigating more so that we would know what the impacts would be. Exactly what you were just saying. That's interesting. I mean, they've only been considering deep seabed mining given what, like the last, not, you know what I mean? We haven't been thinking about this for a while, just the last 5 years maybe, eh?
More than that. I mean, we've actually known about the resource for close to 60 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So back in, I know, the 70s, I think Japan was the first country to come and do surveys and testing. In
interesting.
Yeah. So I think King's representative Tom Masters was on that first vessel.
Wow.
He was a young man.
Yeah.
And so he's a major advocate of let's actually see if it's possible. Only because it's been around that long. And I know there's been a lot of governments over the years, in the last 50 or 60 years, have looked at moving to that next stage of exploratory, but not actually done that. Mark Brown obviously has taken that on to complete that exploratory phase. So yeah, it's
where are you at with that exploratory phase?
And so they've just actually started this year. There was a little bit done last year, but they've actually got the actual proper research vessel in the harbour now. You'll see that there's been a launch, major launch of obviously the first official large research vessel in our waters, and they'll be camped here, I believe, for the next 5 years. And
she's a fully sort of decked out research.
Yeah, it's actually a blessing for the Cook Islands because, and I'm not a lot of people know this, and they probably, you wouldn't want to know it if it's not your interest, but to hire one of these vessels on a daily basis is upward of $50,000 US dollars a day. And so for small island governments that would want to go out there and do this research independently, they just wouldn't happen. You wouldn't be able to afford it. Whereas these guys have come in, most of the information, I believe, is privy to the government. The government are able to access this information. There's some commercially sensitive stuff, obviously, that they won't divulge, but a bulk of that information would come back to government, obviously, because government have to do their assessments at the end of this 5-year exploratory phase to see whether or not that they believe that industry is going to be viable, and obviously 2, that there's not going to be any serious damage. But going back to what you said, how these nodules grow at whatever 1
millimeter per million years.
So it's not like fisheries where you can say, hey, we're going to try to create a sustainable fishery. We're going to curb excess fishing, and we're going to have to manage this fishery properly to keep it sustainable. This is a whole different ball game. Once you've taken these this resource, that's it, it's gone. So it's not something you can say we're going to manage sustainably. It's more, I believe, we're going to manage this resource if and when we can prove that there's not going to be any serious damage to the food chain and to our ocean and obviously our islands. I think one major factor about the Marae Moana Act is that it set aside 50 nautical mile boundaries around every island, meaning that no mining could be done within that So 50 nautical miles is over 100 kilometers. So under the Act, it states that every island had that. So that was one of those precautionary measures.
Nice, precautionary.
And it also applies to the tuna fishery as well. So it says no commercial fishery fishing can happen within those boundaries as well.
Okay.
And so that was really, I believe, a part of the Act that really was integral and really gave the islands, because there's a lot of particularly the Orana on all the islands are actually one of the 100 nautical mile buffer zones.
Wow, could you just let our listeners know Aro'amana, what
Aro'amana is our natural our traditional leadership. So our Ariki and Matayapo and the tribes that
I like that traditional leadership.
Yeah. And so they pushed quite hard for 100 nautical mile buffer zones around every island when we were going through the Marae Moana consultancy stage and going out to all the islands. But obviously there was a compromise, and government came back with 50 nautical mile, and that's what we're sitting with at the moment. And so we're happy with that. And
thank you.
And as these companies move in and start doing the exploratory phase, we're looking to participate and collaborate
and learn.
We're all learning, and I think if it's done right, we'll probably be the first Pacific nation, perhaps Hawaii, because of their connection there, their US state, they probably have a lot done, but I think South Pacific, we'd be the first country to fully understand and have mapped and know exactly what our ocean zone, the Marae Moana, is all about.
Talking about maps, pretty cool. So I was just learning on the maraemoana.gov.ck website about GIS for short, which is Geographic Information System. And I was watching the video of you on there demonstrating GIS, everybody. Pretty cool, eh? Short for Geographic Information System. And on the maraemoana.gov.ck website, it's demonstrated about like all these 3D maps of the islands. And I thought it was pretty cool, even just as an information. Yeah, very cool. Talk to me about that, please.
Well, there's GIS, it's sort of more pinpointing where you are, but within the Act, it also says that government would look to creating MSP, which is Marine Spatial Planning. And that's exactly what you explained. We've got this huge 99.99% of ocean. Under that ocean, it just doesn't go all the way to the floor and there's sand down there. No, there's mountains, there's ridges, there's valleys, there's plains. And those are eventually what we want to do is be able to present this map. And, obviously today with 3D technology and, you could actually create a 3D model of exactly what Marae Moana looks like. And you'd be able to see, where the peaks are, and that the peaks I'm saying are the islands.
The 15 islands, everybody.
We have some of the deepest waters in the Pacific, close to 6,000 meters deep.
Yes, I was learning that too on your website.
Yeah, and so what is at the bottom of that 6,000 meters, It's not just sand, it's, there's all sorts of geographical, types of mountains, and like I said, so we really want to access the information that's coming out of this exploratory phase from these mining companies, and draw a picture, be able to go into the schools and show them on the computers, hey, did you know that just out here there's a seamount?
Yes.
And that's why your grandfathers and now your fathers fish around that area, because there's upwellings around the seamount, and that's what causes the fish to come around that area. And just be able to perhaps even at some stage, once we really understand where there's a lot of biological diversity and there's a lot of life around these seamounts, and that there could be a chance to do rāuis, seasonal rāuis.
Yes, can you explain that? That's such a good thing to tell everybody about, our rāuis, seasonal rāuis.
So rāui is obviously a conservation area. Typically, it's obviously just around our islands and our lagoons. It can be terrestrial, it can be in our forests and wetlands, areas like that. But again, as we move into a modern era and the information starts coming in, and then we start understanding our ocean, I believe that there's opportunities to actually be deep ocean areas, even if it's on a seasonal basis. I know that the tuna fisheries have a fair idea, and I'm talking region-wide now, where spawning grounds are for tuna, and they try to curb catch around those areas, because obviously you want the fish to spawn and grow and then be caught at a latter stage. But who's to say there's not spawning grounds in the Crooks and the Marae Moana? And once we get that sort of information, there may be an opportunity, we don't know, to put some kind of deep ocean rāui in. This information will slowly start filtering in through the deep sea mining companies and through other independent sources. And it's about putting together and building a picture of what the Marae Moana actually is, before we can present back to government or to our arongamanga, what we know and what we've learned, and what exactly Marae Moana is.
Yes, thank you. I'm learning lots. Everybody learning lots today? Listen up. I wanted to talk to you too. Congratulations. September 2020, you were awarded a Sea Ecology Award, Kevin. Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, no, that was good. Sea Ecology is a small non-government organization out of San Francisco, and they've been supporting Cook Islands, or doing small projects, conservation projects in the Cook Islands for over 20 years. And I know they've had programs in, I believe, Mitiaro and Malaya and Rara. And and so they started learning more about Marae Moana from 2017, and then they approached us and said, "Hey, we'd love to partner up, and help, fund small projects."
Yeah.
And so we did that, and just through the work and building these platforms and getting out to the schools and talking about Marae Moana and using Sea Ecology's funding and doing all sorts of other little projects here. They were kind enough to award the Sea Ecology Prize to me in 2020.
Do they have one every year?
Yes.
Do they? Yeah. And like worldwide? Worldwide,
yeah. And so they support mostly small island communities. And so they're all around the world. I think they've done stuff in the Indian Ocean, and Pacific, and
And that's fantastic, thank you. I wanted to just mention the Sea Ecology because I know that they're a great supporter of Marae Moana. Tell me about the beautiful seawall. I mean, everybody who's been visiting would have been looking at this great art going along the seawall. How long is that mural, Kevin?
That's eventually going to be 560 meters. So it's going to be the longest mural in the world, I believe. It's not the biggest, because there's another one that's like 400 meters long, but it's huge, it's high. But it'll be the longest.
Yeah, which is along our seawall, everyone. And Marae Moana's.
Yes. That again is a Sea Ecology project. And so it was actually the main artist, Gonzalo Aldana. He was stuck here during COVID. He's from Mexico. And he'd approached Minister George Maggie, and looking for projects. And he spoke about the seawall. So George Maggie came to us and said, "Hey, it's this great project I believe would work on the seawall. And here's this guy." And he'd done a few other works for NES at the time, and we saw his work, and it's amazing. And so Sea Ecology gave us a bit of a small grant, and we started that. And he worked with Katu Teiti, another local artist, and I think he's used about 10 local artists and students from Te Reo College. And they've just created this beautiful mural that basically starts at one end down the
end of the runway.
end of the runway.
The end of the runway, everybody, and it's called the seawall.
Yeah, and it basically starts off with Mangaya and then goes to Rowan, and basically, I think maybe every 36 meters or 40 meters depicts every island, and within those depictions is stories or personalities or
like you know,
the sea life.
It's just
so
beautiful.
The Rara has kakarori, endemic species on there as well, and it tells stories. So we're obviously going to get to the end, but sea ecologies they've seen it and they really want to keep supporting, and so we want to create an education tool on Google.
Yes.
That can go into the schools and basically showcase the art and the wall, but more showcase the stories and the characters that are on those walls and give actual information and education about the wall, about it might be for instance the kakarori, you'd go
tell everybody about the kakarori.
Well, it's an endemic species, Tararo. It was brought back from the brink of extinction, and now I believe there's several hundred of them on the island. But they're up in the Takitumu conservation area, and there's information on I think it's on the natural heritage site about them, and maybe NES. And so the hope is that this education platform online would lead you to all the actual information, and then you've got other characters or illustrations on the wall that about legends, traditional legends, characters, and so there'll be other ways and means to explain that. And
I was talking, Kevin, to sorry to interrupt you, but it's about what we're talking about. A man down at Motu, and he was and he was mentioning to me, I'm pretty sure, forgive me if I'm wrong, Tim, that they were thinking about even doing QR codes for each, possibly, like the kakarori bird. Then you QR code it when you're walking, and then you can read about the information. How cool is that?
So Tim and Lucille down there, they're actually part of the
that is so cool
comms team, and Kora from up north, he's part of the comms team as well. So it's just about promoting that, the wall, and what Marae Moana is doing, and what sea ecology are funding, and
that's so cool. Such a great idea. Because you'd be able to walk, and then that 560-meter walk, it'd take you 3 hours. Because you'd be like there doing the QR code, and you'd be reading about the bird, and then you'd move to that, and like great storyboard.
Well, Google does a voyage as well. They're doing these voyages now, and they basically, obviously for our kids in the outer islands who can't come down here and do that walk, they can do it all online, and have that experience, and know about all the legends and the characters and what each character depicts on that wall.
I like it.
I
like it. It's like when you drive around there, Kevin, you can't help but look. You're like, okay, eyes on the road, but look how beautiful that's coming along. And you see Gonzalo's there under his umbrella. They've suffered the. And how long have they been down there now working on that? At least a year.
Over a year.
That's what we're talking about, everybody. Over a year, this mural.
And the heat and the weather and the waves breaking over the wall, and he's soldiering on, and it shouldn't be too long, and it'll be completed.
Fantastic. On the Marae Moana .gov.ck site, I really like the information that this scientist, Alan Friedlander, he answered a lot of questions in 2018. So, that's there for you, everybody, to have a look at that as well, maraemoana.gov.ck. And I like, he was asked the question on a global scale, why does Marae Moana matter? And yeah, it's all about what you've been talking about: important cultural connections, life sustaining services, the words Oceania, and also, like, he talks here and he's answering the Cook Islands commitment is the largest, like you were just saying, by a single country to integrate ocean conservation and management. And, just for like the listener, we're talking like atolls, the volcanic islands. I mean, Mangaya, apparently, Kevin, is 20 million.
Yeah, it's supposed to be one of the oldest
Yeah.
landforms.
Mangaya is supposed to be 20 million years old.
Yeah.
Look at my face. If you can see my face, everybody, I'm like, beat you, China, at something.
Yeah.
Right?
No, each island has its uniqueness. And going back to what Alan was talking about is, and what I spoke about at the top end of our talk is how we consider ourselves so small. But in fact, with the massive size of our country, and for that matter, all the Pacific countries should be taking this whole domain approach at looking at our countries, rather than just look at our small, tiny dots of land and say, hey, we understand it, aren't we? We protect these small bits, and then the UN come out with all these sort of mandates saying, hey, protect 20% of the ocean by 2020 and all that sort of thing. And we looked at it, and particularly Henry Puna looked at it and said, hey, no, we're an ocean dwelling people, we're an ocean state. We consider the whole 2 million squares are sacred and protected. Why can't we, flip it on its head and say, no, let's set aside areas of industry, let's set aside areas of tourism. Let's not, say we're going to set aside 10% of our waters as a conservation area, and then anything goes in the other 90. It's the other way around. And so I think slowly that other Pacific countries are following our lead and looking at their countries as whole domain approaches. Imagine if we were all land. We would, that's how we'd look at it. We'd say, hey, no, we're very protective over our land. That in the Cook Islands.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like, so if we were all land, we would be having boundaries and borders. And,
yes.
Why not? Yeah.
Yes. And areas, So, and I think the Western construct of set aside permanent conservation areas and you've done your job, that they haven't worked, because obviously what happens outside those areas is, is open slather. And so we've got to start looking at our ocean that way as it's all there to be protected, but obviously it has to be managed right. And there are going to be areas, and that's why they call it a multiple use marine protected area.
Oh, yes. Can you explain that? I was listening to that multiple use. I like that.
Yeah. So again, it really just ties into that whole domain approach. And I think the best example were the guys up in the Great Barrier Reef.
Yes.
So
yes.
If you ever want to see something really complicated in that management, you go to Great Barrier Reef, because they've got so many zones. Obviously, because they've got millions and millions of people bordering on this marine protected area. So, you've got all sorts of fishing zones and dredging zones, and so many zones within there. And they've done the best they can, but they have the resources also to be able to put experts in and scientists and be able to, really come up with this collaborative approach on how to manage this huge area. I think it's 350,000 square kilometers of ocean there, the Great Barrier. Yeah. And so, it's essentially not copying them, but just saying, we're also a multiple use, even though our zones are huge, much bigger than theirs.
Very cool. I've learnt lots today. Very fortunate to sit with you today, right? And you were showing me this beautiful new sticker that has just been released, which is going to go like to schools and
Yeah, well, we've designed it, and these stickers, Marae Moana stickers, are based on the seawall again. And as I said, the wall depicts each island within the Marae Moana. And so we've got Gonzalo again to design these stickers, and he's obviously the first couple will be Malaya and Rarotonga will come out, and it's basically shows that section of the wall, but in a sticker form, and we'll give those out to the kids at schools when we go and do our talks, and hopefully they become like collector's items, because there'll be a series of 16. They won't all come out at the same time, and obviously the guys, the schools in their own islands, and Atu and Malaya and Hitiaro, they'll all want their own sticker. But it gives you an opportunity.
True, that's great, because when you have 15 islands, why not have 15 stickers? What a great idea. When you do go to the schools, actually, you go in. So give me an example. You did give me an example before. You draw New Zealand, you draw Australia, then you draw Rara, and then what else do you sort of talk about to the kids?
It depends on the age group, but as we sort of get up into your sort of 12, 13, going to high school, I sort of personally talk more about this massive resource that we have, and that we've really overlooked it, and that moving into the future, there's going to be genuine jobs, and there already is. If you look at marine resources, you look at NES, you look at all these government agencies that are tied to the ocean, but obviously now we haven't really created any aquacultural businesses or fisheries full-on fisheries businesses. There's small ventures and artisanal fishermen, but I really encourage the kids, hey, think about, rather than leaving our shores, what's coming up that has something to do with the ocean, that you might be able to invest your life into, stay in the islands. And then with the younger kids, I more talk about, where they're from, what are the traditional and cultural values that tie into the Marae Moana, around fishing and life around the ocean and in the lagoons, and the importance of really managing our resources. And I always ask the question, do you know what raois are? Yes, we do. Why are they there? Some of them don't know. They just know, we're not allowed to fish there, we're not allowed to do that. What are the reasons behind that? And then I like to explain to them
the regeneration. You explain to them. Cool.
we have a very fragile islands, actually very, very fragile. And if they're not managed well, the resources, you lose them very, very quickly. And again, another example, Naitaki, the pāo.
Yes. True.
20, 30 years ago, they never thought they'd ever have a problem. And obviously they're like many of other southern groups, they're all but lost in some cases, in some areas, that resource. And so
everybody for the Northern Hemisphere listening is like big giant clams, and
it's a delicacy.
It's a delicacy. And our age, Kevin and I, our age, it was like so abundant in Aitutaki, many years ago, and now it's sacred, heading to extinction, and so they've got all of those protected now in Aitutaki, right?
Well, obviously a lot of areas, and they've got their own place where they're growing them and putting them, and they're doing a good job, because last time I was there, it's so nice when you submerge and you see those colors of the clams. Well, thank you. It's been great. Anything you want to add to your episode today, because we'll do another follow-up. We're just keeping on with our continuous sort of consultations and going through the schools. Look forward to doing more work in the Pāinua.
Pāinua is the outer islands, everybody.
And just keep the momentum going, and working with a lot of great people, a lot of other government agencies, and the Marae Moana Technical Advisory Group, which is the core government group of agencies that get together. They're really pushing through now, and the Marae Moana Council, which is the higher level politicians and that sit on the council, they will be getting together this year and getting updated on our next ventures, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you. So I'm gonna end off everybody with something from the maraemoana.gov.ck website, which is quoted from Alan, a scientist Friedlander. I quite like it. These places harbour the remaining pristine ecosystems in the ocean and are the only baselines we have to understand what we have lost and provide resilience to large-scale disturbances and the potential effects of climate change. Yeah, nice. Like, it's all to our bit, eh? It's all to our bit. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been lovely sitting down again, right?
Thank you.
Keep ambassadoring. Okay, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank
Noko
you.
ni ia mātou aroa i atu kia koutou katoa. Thank you very much. Ka kite, goodbye. Kia orana, may you live long, and kia manuia means good luck and good health.